Hey everybody, I want to talk with you about all of the different vanes that we offer here at Nock on Archery and what the pros and cons are going to be to each of these vanes once you compare them against each other. So I have 5 vanes that I've used throughout several years of archery, some of them for a long time, and there's certain things that each vane is really designed for. So the first vane I want to talk about is a 3-inch max stealth vane. This is a 3-inch vane that you can see has a pretty low profile taper to it, and this is a vane that I probably use the majority of the time in both indoor archery as well as my hunting arrows. Whether it's a 3-fletch, 4-fletch, regardless really of the type of configuration I do, I really like the benefits of a 3-inch vane that has a slightly lower profile. When the vanes have a slightly lower profile, it gives you a lot more clearance with not only your cables, which are normally fairly close to the arrow, but also depending on the arrow rest that you have and the type of containment cage that it has. Also, if you're shooting an arrow rest like a whisker biscuit, having that low profile vane is going to offer a lot less drag as it passes through the arrow rest. Now the max vanes, which are really going to be 4 out of the 5, this yellow vane here is actually an elite vane, which is a slightly different material. But any of the max style vanes are made of a very rigid and durable material that is super beneficial for when you're shooting groups, or if you're shooting tournaments where other people are hitting your arrows or you're putting arrows past one another. They have very good rebound, so they're very travel friendly. They don't have a memory of getting stuck to the side or curled over. They have great memory. And the thing that's most important is just understanding that with that max material, there is a process for adhesion, which is part of the system that we offer by simply using the max wipes, a primer pen to prime the base of the vane, and as soon as that's cured or dried off, to go ahead and use the max bond glue, and you have a perfect adhesion. Several of these arrows I've used for a long time. This one looks like it's been used in a hunting situation. The vanes are still in perfect condition. So the 3-inch low profile has the benefits of maximum steerability, not only in a target situation for, like I said, my indoor target arrows, where I put a very severe offset on there or a strong helical just to get these larger diameter shafts spinning fast at a short distance. And then for a hunting situation, it really gives you the ability to not only shoot a magnitude of fixed blade heads, but also any type of mechanical head that you'd like to shoot. So that's a 3-inch max stealth. The next one is a 3-inch elite vane. So really the difference between the two is simply the material itself. The elite vane has the pros of being able to be adhered with really any type of fast set gel or super glue. It's a slightly different compound, so it has very fast adhesion, but it is slightly softer than the Max series. So it has the ability to put much more turn or twist on it. However, this doesn't have near the memory if it's laid over in a bow case for an exterior dependent time, or if it's has pressure on it, it's in a cold situation. A lot of times, because it's softer, it'll also hold the shape longer when it's manipulated. So if you shoot this elite vane through a whisker biscuit several times, you're going to start to see a ripple in the actual vane itself. Or if you pass through targets, it's going to be a lot more prone to having a little bit more bend and flex to the shape of the vane. However, it's extremely quiet, really easy to adhere. The next one in line here is a Max Hunter, and this pretty much is the growing shape that a lot of people like who want a shorter vane but a much taller profile. So the benefits to this is the shorter the vane in length, it's a lot more forgiving when it comes to a crosswind. When a wind is blowing across, a lot of times if your vane is shorter and there's less surface area, you're going to have less drift. These are a lot more compact. They're a little bit more travel friendly for bow hunters. And they also are a pretty good crossover vane for guys that like to use their bow hunting setup throughout the off season to shoot, local tournaments or club events. So it's kind of a crossover vane. The other thing that this vane would work well for is actually shooting bows that have a shorter brace height. So if your brace height or your distance between your arrow rest and your string is pretty short, then as that arrow is knocked on the string, if your containment style arrow rest is closer to the string, a lot of times you would have interference with a longer style vane. You can see here there's a pretty big difference, but by having that shorter vane, you actually don't have the interference with the containment style rest when the arrow is simply knocked on the string. But if you don't have to worry about that, then obviously you've got a magnitude of options. Now the next one in line is going to be this PM 2.0. And this is the lowest profile vane out of all of them. It has about the same length as the Max Hunter vane, except it's got about half of the height. So this vane is really dedicated to the target archer and the longer distance shooter, specifically in the target archery realm. It's going to have very, very minimal wind drift. It's extremely light, and also the actual shoe of the vane is very, very narrow and very thin intentionally so that it can fit on these micro diameter shafts. Another thing that you have the ability to do, if you understand using your fletching jig, is putting extra vanes on the shaft. So this here is my 3D setup. This is a Super Drive 23. And what I've done is I'm actually using a PM 2.0, and I've went ahead and fletched this in a 6 fletch configuration. So this arrow has minimal surface area for a crosswind, but it has extremely good spin and rotation. And this is a very, very good arrow for mid to close range. If I were to use my 3D bow for longer range type of shooting, I would probably minimize this down to a 3 fletch just for a little bit less drag. But the PM 2.0 definitely gives you a tremendous amount of benefits for world archery events, field archery events. You can also certainly use it for some of the mid to micro diameter shafts in 3D. It's probably the #1 target specific vane on the market, and that's the PM 2.0. The last one is pretty much a vane that's designed to be a crossover between 3D archery and target archery, and really try to bridge that gap between long distance projectiles and the short to mid range projectiles. So the Pro Max is a really good vane that has a lower profile than a Max Hunter, and it's also slightly shorter than either the Max Hunter or the PM 2.0, and it's a great vane for a magnitude of uses, including some of the larger diameter 3D arrows, or also in hunting situations. This is a hunting arrow that I used in the past, which I knew I was in a lot of windy conditions coming up, so I decided to use this shorter vane for crosswind type situations. Also has minimal drag, and this combination here worked really well with a mechanical style broadhead. The other option that you can do with that head too is this is actually the combination that Sharon and Harry both shoot. This is a 6 fletch configuration of the Pro Max on their hunting arrow, which is proven to shoot really, really well with their fixed blade heads. at slower speeds. So you really have a magnitude of options depending on your application. And one of the things that you can take advantage of is our sample packs, which actually give you the option to fletch several arrows with each of these styles so that you can really determine what combination is working best for you. The sample pack is a great way to make a short-term investment to really know which direction you want to go for buying your bulk vanes in the future. And this really is a great system, and hopefully you know now which vane is best for you.